Okay, so I spend maximum 10 hours on each one of these exercises. Maximum 10 hours on each one of these. And then if I can't do it, I'm gonna search for the solution online. So these are the scientific computing with Python exercises. I already read a little bit of this. So pretty much from what I understand, I need to make something that takes an array like this with strings of arithmetic problems and transform them to this format here. So the maximum amount of problems that they can give is 5. It only takes plus or minus signs. Each number operand should not only contain digits, otherwise the function will return error. Numbers must only contain digits. So I'm probably gonna have to use regex to do this two problems here. Each operand number each side of the operator has a max of 4 digits in width. Otherwise, the error string returned will be numbers cannot be more than 4 digits. So I'm supposed to write the code here in this file. For development, you can use main.py to test your arithmetic arranger. So here it tests. Okay. So let's think about this. I think I'm gonna write some pseudo code. So I'm gonna need a bunch of if conditions, I think, first. First thing that I don't know is that if I can use self to determine the array. But here is problems. So yeah, the first thing I think is the number of elements on the array. So if statement for the then I need an if statement for after that I check that that it has five, maximum five, then I'm gonna need to use some regex, I think. And I'm gonna have to loop through all of them. And make a condition for plus or minus sign. Then I think I can make the same condition in the same loop. I make the other condition for the number of digits, I think. Each number should only contain digits, so it can't be a number that is broke down with a comma or a point, I think. But this, I think, can be a problem because I might have to split the string as well. Maybe I can create a regex for the string itself and check one by one, because the only way that the number is not going to be, you're not going to have a plus or minus sign within the number, so because that's not a number. So I think I can check for the string at the same time that I check for the signs or for the number. So each one has max of 4 digits in width. This one I might have to break down the strings. So I'm not really sure if it's better to do in the same. It's probably better to do in another loop, because it's probably gonna be hard to split the string on the same loop, and then I'm gonna have to join the string again through, so it keeps looping and checking through these conditions here. Or maybe it's better to just separate them anyway, because I'm gonna have to do some stuff with them later. So I could do just a bigger element, a bigger array with all the elements inside. Like instead of being a string, it would be 32, then plus, then 8, then 1. I think that's one way to do it. But I'm not sure if it's the best way. I'm probably, I think the hardest part is going to be doing this transformation. Not only it has to be in this format, but I have to make the math as well. I think I'm going to do on the same loop, because I can check one array at the time, one element at the time, and just pass a regex to check if there is Yeah, I'm not too good with regex, so I'm not sure if there is a way to check if a number has more than 4, but not exclude the rest. So if the user supplied the correct format of the of problems, the conversion return will follow these rules. There should be a single space between the operator and the longest of the two operands. Okay. The operator will be on the same line as the second operand. Yeah. Okay. So there's one space between the plus and the number here, and this number and the plus. Plus or minus. And then these should be on the same line as the second one. Both operands will be in the same order as provided. The first will be the top one, and the second will be the bottom. Numbers should be right aligned. I think I can make a line between them using slash dot slash n, I think, for a new line. Just reformatting each one after I check for the conditions. There should be 4 spaces between each problem. 4 spaces between each problem. So I think the way that I'm gonna do this is the same way I'm gonna do this, but just change the stuff I do on the loop, the regex, and the formatting. There should be dashes at the bottom of each problem. The dashes should run along the entire length of each problem individually. The example above shows what this should look like. So for problems, no, I think it's at the element first, if I understood correctly the lessons. So for problem, in problems, and this should be the, so each problem is going to be one element of the array. If, oh, actually, I need to do this outside the loop to check for the length. If problems dot length is bigger than 5, I think that's how you check. Uh, that's how you do the length for Python, but I'm not really sure because I'm used to JavaScript. Maybe that's not the right way to format things. I remember there was a slight difference, but I can't remember. Yeah, there isn't the thing. It's like this. Then I should return this message here. I think that solves the first one. So now I need to make the loop and check for the sign. Let me erase this. So import array and then array dot match. I'm not sure if I can import things for to solve the challenge, but what is matching? Okay, the match goes here, I think. No, the match goes here and then and I'm not sure if the regex for Python is the same as the one used for JavaScript. So let me see if I can find. I think it's just gonna be simply typing them there, but I wanna see if there's one made for both conditions. So this one matches exactly 4 digits, apparently. I should make if it doesn't match. So maybe I should do it like this. It's giving me an error, so I probably can't do that. Maybe it's because it's inside of a loop. I think I can search this. I also need a way to see to test what the code is doing. Usually I've been using Python visualizer, but I'm not sure if there's a better way. Maybe putting console.log somewhere. So this is probably gonna loop through problems, and each problem is gonna be a string. I think it's probably the same way. Maybe I can use this and try the regex, and if it fails, I put the message. And this doesn't help that much. It's using red out too much. Maybe I should just put this here. The problem is done. Well, it seems to work now. Let me try if this. Oh, no, it doesn't work. Maybe if I put between parentheses. So how can I check or if it doesn't match? Maybe I use continue. So which way is better to search for? I can either make this not match and then return the error, or to just continue and then do the try except thing. Well, this is exactly what I want to do. So he did right away with the rejects instead of looping through looping through the array to get each problem. Oh, great. No one has answered this. Or maybe these ones are answers. There's so many ways that I should do this. It's kind of hard to decide which one is the best one. I'm thinking about using if I should do three loops for each condition and try to use this because it seems easier. Oh no, he did the regex. But how is this a regex? No, now I understand. I could do an array of all the regex that I'm gonna need and then do this loop here. So first he loops through the regex and then it creates the if statement with regex and the ben name. Yeah, but I think it's slightly different because mine is gonna be on array here, and I don't think it's an array here that he passed. Maybe I can search for that later as well. I'm gonna do this one actually. It's the same thing that I was doing, but it's actually slightly different. So how can I say it doesn't match? Maybe if I do this, something like that. Then the return. Maybe it should be a string. Can I do a string inside of a string? Apparently, I think I can. But it's still kind of giving me an error here. Error. Let me see what this code does. If it does what I think it does. Let me change this for plus and minus. Let me get the example. I can do return outside of function. So I'm gonna do print instead. This object has no attribute. Okay? So I guess this is the first problem. So length array. Well, it's not an array, it's a list, right? Why did they have to make the names different? So unnecessarily complicating things. Let's see if this works. Oh, and each import. Yeah, I'm not gonna be able to do it here because this thing is probably not gonna understand. Maybe it does. I don't know. Oh, it actually does. Nothing to repeat at position 0. What does that even mean? I think I'm gonna have to watch a video on this. Just reading about it, it's gonna take a long time.
Patterns in text. They're basically the equivalent of using Control F on a Word document, except they're much more precise and powerful. This can come in handy while editing code, verifying user input, or scraping the web. The list really goes on, and that's why I want to give you a solid intro to regex today in this video. Regex are a challenging tool to master, but this tool will get you started and oriented. Today we'll go through a quick tutorial on how to validate emails and replace a string using regex in Python. Regular expressions and their symbols are universal across all programming languages. There are many symbols that can be used to find patterns in text. I'll include a link to a regex cheat sheet in the description below, as well as to the code in today's tutorial. Let's see how a few of these regular expressions work in real time. When I press Control F, I get the find word prompt. If I press Alt R, I can now search using regular expressions. Using Control F like this is a good way to make sure your regex patterns work before you try to implement them in your Python script. When I type \d, I am searching for all valid digits, so any number between 0 and 9. You can see that everywhere a number occurs, it's highlighted. Conversely, when I type \D, I'm now looking for the opposite, or non-digits. Now you can see everything but the numbers are highlighted. It's time to jump to our code and we'll go until we encounter an @ symbol. The plus sign after the brackets means we are looking for any combinations of one or more of these characters. Since email addresses are issued from many domains, we'll specify that we are looking for any combination of one or more to the pattern so it makes sure the email ends in the string argument for the user input, email, while you're programming. If you're using Atom, VS Code, Spider, is your relevant Python documentation while you database where you may have thousands of strings you need to change. Let's pretend that we need every phone number entered into a continuous string of numbers, come in a predictable format, so we can write a regular expression to identify them in our database. Each set of parentheses resembles a group, so from left to right we have groups 1, 2, and 3. But now we need to write what we want this pattern to turn into. Let's preserve the groups but remove the hyphens. Each \number represents a group.
Let me do this instead. The issue is that I also think this condition is wrong because I don't want the match to be equal. I don't know what this returns. I think this is more of a Boolean statement that returns. If it matches, it returns true, and if it doesn't, it returns false.
All right, so now that we've taken care of that portion, I want to go into some of the syntax and some methods of regular expressions. All right, so we're going to start off with match and search, which are two very common regular expression methods. So the first thing is re.search. So let's just go over some of this syntax. So re.search has three parameters, or three arguments, and the first one is the pattern, the regular expression pattern. The second is the string, and the third includes flags. So flags we'll go over a little later, but they're sort of special options. So if you want to sort of ignore capital letters or deal with multi-lines, flags will help with that. So the key difference, so we have RE regular expression.search and regular expression.match. Where RE.match, of course, it's the same, it has the same arguments or the same parameters as RE.search. Now the key difference is RE.search searches anywhere within the string, as opposed to RE.match, it only searches for the at the beginning of your string. So RE.match searches at the beginning of your string, and RE.search searches anywhere within your string. So let's just go through some examples. Okay. So these are very simple examples. As you get the hang of it, we'll go through more.
So it's search pattern and then the string. Pattern array dot search. Let me take this off here. Let's see if this works. Nothing to repeat at position 0. Stay the same problem as before. It's probably because problem is an array and not. Let me check what problem is instead. I also think I'm gonna print it's a pattern and then a string, right? Pattern first and string. Read.search pattern. Put the first one here. Maybe it's the other way around. Maybe that's the problem.
More, a lot more difficult examples, and I'll give some real world
Oh, maybe
examples
it
as
has
well.
to be a string as well. Maybe it should be like this. Yeah, same thing.
All right, so in this case, RE.match, we're matching. This is our match pattern, which is just a C, and this is our string. So we're looking for C within all of this. Okay. So remember, RE.match only matches if your pattern is at the beginning of the string. So our case C is not at the beginning of the string. So our pattern C is not at the beginning of the string. It's actually in the middle of the string. So this C is going to return a none value or an empty result set. So when I run this, we get no value back. But in reality, we're getting the none value, which is doesn't display anything. All right, so now if we do this with search, remember search searches anywhere. It's not confined to just the beginning of the string. So if I click search, if I run the cell, we get a match object. Now let me just explain this match object. So we get a match object back, and span 2 to 3 is just the index location. So 0, 1, 2, and it ends at 3. So our match starts at index 2 and ends at 3. So this is just giving us the index location, and this is giving us what we matched. So in this case, we matched the C. So that's all the match object does. All right, so now you can use re.match as a boolean. So above, when we ran this, we actually got none as a value. So none, when you take the boolean value of none, it actually returns false. So this is a way to check if you're getting a hit or not, if you're getting a match or not. So if I run this boolean on this match, I get a false. So this is a good way to check if you got a hit. You can do some other stuff. If you didn't get a hit, you can do other stuff.
Or I can make equal to false. Why is this thing not working? Let me erase this from here. Oh, maybe it's an unsupportive future. Oh, maybe I can test here then. I think I'm just gonna. I can actually do inside there the function, and then I just call the function later. If I'm not mistaken, the main.py as well is supposed to be used to test things out. Let's see what happens if I run the thing. From the other projects I was doing on the other sections of the code camp, and I was using Replit. When I pressed the run button, it would run all the files, I think, because it runs the full application. So I think this runs all the files. Yeah. Oh, there is no console log on Python. Maybe print is the same as console log.
Stuff. Now we can do the boolean of something of a hit. So a boolean of a match. In this case, we're trying to match A, and A is at the beginning of the string, so we should.
And try to do this boolean thing. See if it changes anything. That's
Should get a
weird.
match, so the boolean value should be true. So let me just run this, and we get the true value. All right. So the problem with re.search is it only looks for the first match. It doesn't include all the matches. So let me just show you this. So we ran this code before. We get a match because C is included within the string. Now, if we have multiple C's, as you can see here, there's a C in the middle, and there's a C in the end. re.search only searches for the first.
Maybe I should add to a variable first. Let me try this first. Invalid syntax. I don't understand why this is not working. It should be. Should print either true or false. I don't think comment commenting this out is gonna change anything. Forgot how to do it in Python. Yeah, that's how I do it.
First instance. So let me just run this, and it only pulls out the first instance, which is here. It does not pull out this instance, which is at the end. So re.search only pulls out the first instance. All right, so multi-line. So re.search works with new lines as well. So if the C starts after a new line, it will locate the C. So it's not confined to the first line. It can work after the new line as well. See, we get a match of C at index 6 and 7. All right. Now re.match, on the other hand, only looks for something at the beginning of the string. So if we have a new line and C at the beginning of a new line, it doesn't consider that the beginning of the string. It always looks for the beginning of a string. So in this case, despite C starting at the beginning of a new line, it doesn't work because re.match is looking for a C at the beginning of the string. So in this case, it doesn't work. Now I just want to go over how there's a way you can actually print the output as a string output. You can print your match objects as a string output. All right. So just going over this again, re match, we're going to match A, and the string is this, so we should get a match once we get a match, but there is a way you can print out this A. So if you want to print out the output, all we do is dot group. We can use the group method. So re.match, and you just add a group method to the end, and parentheses. You don't have to put any parameters because the default parameter is 0. So the default value is 0 here. So let me just run this. We get the A, and now let me just run it again, adding the default value of 0. So the 0 value will pull out your entire match. This is important. Just remember that the default value is 0 because we'll be using other group numbers as we get into groups. All right. So same output.
So maybe it isn't possible to print that for some reason.
We get the 8. All right. So this works with the re search as well. We did re match with group, and re search also pulls out the string when you use the group method. Okay. So it's sometimes useful to pull out certain patterns, right? So in this case, we're just pulling out letters, but say we want to pull out patterns. And these are special character sets, which we'll go into later, but I just want to show you that we can actually pull out certain sets of characters. So in this case, we're pulling out this whole portion here, despite specifically not entering these characters within our string search. So you can pull out all types of patterns, strings, depending on which character sets of wildcard to use, and we'll get into all that later. Okay, a couple of things, a couple of other methods are the start and end. So earlier, let me see, when we run something like re.match, let me just run this again.
Oh, I think I know what's wrong. I think plus is a special character on regex. So maybe this solves. Okay, at least it's not giving me the same mistake. Non-type object has no attribute group. I think when you put the plus sign, it assumes that you want to find a pattern that repeats itself. Let me comment this out. No? At least I think it's working, but it didn't print anything. So it's running from main this function with this string here, this array. That's how the test is happening, I think. And then it runs the file here. Not import name. Oh, I need to think what's going on is that I'm importing on that file and this file is not importing from the other one, maybe. Yeah, maybe I can't import this. This statement here imports the stuff from this file to this file. This statement right here. I'm saying I can't import this library. Oh, but if I can reuse regex, then it's gonna be tough. Maybe I can create a loop and then go through this string as a loop. I don't understand why they would make it that way, because it seems like complicating things unnecessarily. Maybe I should just try to do it to import on the main file instead and see what happens. Yeah, it's gonna give me the same mistake because shouldn't make too much of a difference. Yeah. Oh no, it's different error. It's because I've commented this out and it's trying to run the function. So maybe I should just comment this out. Don't know how to comment things on Python. Yeah, now it's the same mistake, I think. How can I run only this file? Yeah, the problem is this in part. I think there's two problems. One is that for some reason I'm not sure if this is importing the other file. And the other one is that this ray library re or ray library doesn't work.
We get a match object and we get a span and we get the match. So if you want to just pull out this info, right? So this is giving us all this info, but if you want to pull out the start and the end so you can utilize it or save it to a variable, what you can do is you can actually run this dot start or dot end. So array.search and dot start will actually pull out the starting index, so the 6, and the end will pull out the ending index, which is 7. So these are useful if you want to save these indexes to a variable. Next up, literal matching. Now, in this case, it's not n or a, it's an n followed by a. So for us to get a match, it has to match exactly. This is called literal matching because it has to literally match the regular expression that we've inputted. So in this case, NA is not going to return an output if it's just n or if it's just a. You need to have both n and a has to be following n. So let's just run this. we get no result, so that means it's a non-value, so no returns. Now, if we want to pull out an n or an a, we can use this or symbol, which we use in Python. So n or a will look for the first instance. Remember, r.search looks for the first instance. So either an n or a will be pulled out. So in this case, a is the first instance. So let's just run this, and we get an a. Now, just another example, I replaced the a with a b, so the first instance will actually be this n. So remember, it searches for an n or an a. And if we run this, we get the match n. Now, you're not confined to just n or a. You could use as many or statements as you want. So in this case, we're searching for an a, or an b. And if we look at the string, the first hit's going to be a b. So let me just run this. Okay, so it matches a b. All right, so I'm just going to quickly just introduce you to, let me just actually, re.find all. Actually, all right, just run this. All right. So I'll just quickly introduce you to re.find all. Now, what re.find all does is pulls out all the instances. So earlier, re.search was only pulling out the first instance. re.find all will pull out every single instance as a list. Now, there's a couple things you're gonna have to worry about when using re.find out. I'm going to go into all this later when we use grouping. But re.find out will pull out all of the
I don't think there's a way to do this without regex because of the four number rule, maximum of 4 digits number. Needs plus or minus sign. Then check if the number only contain digits. And check. Yeah, the issue is that all the regex things are gonna be with this library apparently. I think for the plus or minus sign I can loop through the strings, but I can't create a nested loop there. I'm also not really sure how to get the index of the array. Because in JavaScript you use the I variable inside the parentheses, and that's how you get the index. But here I can only have the variable and the thing. So what I'm thinking about is either making each element of the array equal to a different variable based on the index, and then looping through each string and searching for these patterns. I think probably the best way is to loop again. But I'm not sure if I can do this. Uh, if that's the way to nest for loops or not. So in this case, letter would be each letter in the problem, which is this string. I wonder if that's possible as well, because I'm looping through an array at first and then looping through this string. And then I will have a variable outside here. Uh, just gonna name anything for now. So it has to contain the plus or minus, or is not valid. But then I will have to loop through the regex as well. That's the problem. I wonder if I can put it here instead. It's probably wrong because the way I understand this logic is that this is a variable inside of this thing, whatever this thing is. This is an element of this uh, object or list or whatever it is.
Hey there, how's it going, everybody? In this video, we're going to be learning how to use regular expressions. So we're actually going to look at regular expressions as a standalone topic because they aren't specific to any one programming language. Now, there's some slightly different flavors here and there, but for the most part, whether you're programming in Python or JavaScript or Java or whatever, if you learn how to use general regular expressions, then it should mostly carry over into your language of choice. And it will also allow you to use them in text editors and the command line and things like that. Now, I am going to do a follow-up video where I show how to use regular expressions specifically in Python, since that's a language that I cover most on this channel. But for this video, we're going to be learning how to use regular expressions by themselves so that you can apply these to other areas. So with that said, let's go ahead and get started. So regular expressions basically allow us to search for specific patterns of text.
I think I already saw this video for some reason.
And they can look extremely complicated, but that's mainly because there's just so much that you can do with them. You can create a regular expression for just about any pattern of text that you can think of. So let's see what some of these look like. So I have a test file open here that we're going to use to search for specific patterns. And I'm going to be using the regular expression tool in the Atom text editor to write these regular expressions and find what text matches our patterns. Now, in order to open up this regular expression search tool, I'm just going to go to find and then find in buffer. Now, you could have also opened this up with Command F on a Mac, and I believe that's Control F on Windows. Now, within the options here, make sure that you have the dot asterisk selected over here because that's going to tell our search tool tool to use regular expressions, and also select this match case option here as well. That's just going to give us behavior that is more common to how regular expressions usually behave. Okay, so let's start writing some regular expressions, and first we'll start off kind of simple. So first of all, we can just search for literal characters. So if I was to search for ABC, then we can see here at the top that it highlighted ABC because it matched the ABC in our lowercase alphabet. Now, it didn't match the capital ABC here because it's case sensitive. Now, this search right now, specifically for a backslash, then you have to escort and search for that. Then we can see that it matches any character except it doesn't see uppercase A through Z just yet. We are going to look at a lot of examples to where it'll start to sink in. So moving down the if I was to search for that, then you can see that it highlights matches the position at the beginning /D, and that is going to match. We can just do 4 matches all of the phone numbers. Any character. So if I was character set, we want to put that's something that can kind of throw people off when they first start working with regular expressions. So even though, we have 4 characters total here in this character set with these square brackets and all of the characters in between, let's say 1 and the caret. Now we saw, let's say that we'll just match any character we're looking for, and we can also specify a range of numbers as well. So for example, and to do that, we can use our character class that it matches all 3. That we are matching a space. Then match the first email address first and see what that looks like. So the first email address, we have a mix of upper and lowercase letters here before we hit this @. So in order to search for, we can read through and see what this is matching as well. So we've do not. So let's and say this group, and then a colon, and then a $1. Now this $1 is a reference.
This is how.
Hey Fixsters, and welcome to this video where I want to show you how to find all lines not containing a certain regular expression in Python. Okay, so as usual, we start with importing the regular expression library re, and now let's have an example. So for example, if I have a multi-line string, say this one here, it consists of a few lines. In each line we have the like the pattern 42, for example, and yeah, we want to find all lines that do not contain the pattern 42. And of course, you can use any pattern here, but we are just like using the pattern 42. Okay, and how can we do this? Basically, so a simple example is to use the find iter function. So in general, we match. So like we write a function for match in re.findIter. The findIter method, it takes a pattern and it searches this pattern in a given string. And you can also specify an optional flags argument. Okay, so we need to have a pattern. Like I'll replace this in a moment. Our string is obviously our multi-line string, and then we have a flags argument. And yeah, then our flags argument, I'm already writing it and explaining it on the way. And yeah, now we have to define our pattern. And what is the pattern? The pattern is, so we want to match all lines that do not contain a certain pattern. So basically, yeah. And this, for example, is, so we have we open this with a string, and now how can we express a line? A line is enclosed in those two special characters in regular expressions. So we have the carré operator, which matches at the beginning of each line, and we have the $sign, which matches at the end of each line. But only if we use the multi-line flags argument. Okay, so that's why we need a multi-line argument. So we flags re.m is short for multi-line. Okay, this means that if you have specified a multi-line argument, then the carré operator will match at the beginning of each line, and the $sign will match at the end of each line. Okay, so it's a very simple combination. Okay, and now in between we have to match the whole line. But we only match the line if it doesn't contain the regular expression pattern 42. As an example, I mean, you can then replace 42 with any other regular expression pattern which you don't want to match in a single line, but yeah, it's just as an example. And how can we do this? So there's no default operator that allows this, so we have to rewrite this a bit, and we have to understand 2 important concepts. The first is the dot operator, actually 3 concepts. The first is the dot operator, the second is the asterisk operator, and the last is the group. Basically the group operator with negative look ahead. Okay, so what does a negative look ahead mean? So let's first explain maybe negative look ahead. So we have a negative look ahead looks like this. So we have an opening parenthesis, then we have these 2 symbols, question mark and exclamation mark. Then we have something in between, like I'll replace these 3 dots. This is what we don't want to, so we have a negative look ahead. So basically at each position in our match, we want to ensure that the contents of this group does not occur in the following. So it's a look ahead. At each position, it looks ahead a few positions into the future, and it checks whether those positions do not match the contents of this negative look ahead group. And this will be 42, obviously. Okay. So, but now basically what it will do, it will match the beginning of each line, which doesn't actually consume a character. It just matches at the beginning of each line, and then it will check that the next 2 characters won't be 42. Okay, but it won't consume them. So basically, maybe I give you a short example of the look ahead. So I've prepared something here. So what does it mean, look ahead? So this is a normal look, this is a positive look ahead, so it's different from a negative look ahead, but it's similar. And it means, so here we have the word, the string hello world, and we have our look ahead operation. So the first part is actually just a normal pattern. So we have the pattern hello, and at this point, so the regex engine starts here. It matches the first character H, it matches the second character, it matches the third, fourth, fifth character, and then it is at this position. It has already matched parts of the regular expression hello, followed by this look ahead expression world, and then basically it simply checks at this position. It simply checks whether in the look ahead, so whether if it would go forward, whether it would be able to match the characters that appear there. And you can see, okay, in the first example, those characters world would basically match the like a second one, and we have the asterisk operator, and then we have the at least once operator, but maybe, and the dot operator. The dot operator is the end of the line character. So this is important. You can always have to print the match object, and you see that it matches.
So the ones that I need are plus or minus sign, 4 digits, and check if the number only contains digits. I'm thinking about putting all of them on a array. I'm trying to do the same thing that the guy did on the solution for Stack Overflow for a different problem. The issue is that all of them are going to use the re library. So unless I create a bunch of loops and stuff to check each string separately, then I don't see how I'm going to be able to make this happen. I have to stop calling them arrays as well. Start calling lists instead. So what I could do is separate by list. I think I can do list.split or something like that to get each string on a separate array and then separate that string into different arrays so I have every word on a separate array. But doesn't seem like it's the best way to do this. It seems too complicated. Must be a easier way to go about this. I also want to understand what because I don't understand very well these for loops in Python. Then I'm gonna call this function. Okay, so first line executes the thing, checks for the condition. So problem is this string. And it prints one more than necessary. So let me think. Um, I wanna put each of these things into different variable. So I can loop through them. Maybe I should do this. See what happens as well. Just so I understand more what's happening. Okay, nice. So this loops through the string. And letter is gonna be each one of the digits. So now I have to figure out how to make a conditional statement for. The problem is that I'm not only gonna check one by one. I need to check the whole thing. I need to find a regex pattern. So if it doesn't contain the plus or minus, then it's gonna be an error. I think that's the easiest one to start. The issue is how can I put this on a, because I don't wanna do each thing that I wanna test to create a different variable and then loop through the thing. I wanna find a way to think about how I can test the pattern using only one loop. So if I did an array, I would have to loop through the array, the other array with the rejects that I want to test. The other thing that I'm thinking about is that I'm not sure if this is gonna understand. I think this is only loops through the problem, but it doesn't learn. When it finishes, it's gonna go on the bigger loop again. So I'm trying to think about a way to determine, because I can put a conditional statement here to see if there is a plus or a minus, but then I don't know how to set the boundary to be in problem. Maybe this way already works because it's gonna loop again anyway. Yeah, what when it says the problem doesn't contain plus or minus, then I send the message. But how to do that is the question. Because if I check for each letter, then obviously some letters are not going to be plus or minus. And finding the plus or minus is not exactly what I want. And checking for the conditions where it doesn't have plus or minus, I think is too many conditions. I think it would work, but it's not the best way to think about it, I think. Because if this was a different problem and there was a lot more stuff that I didn't want to, there was like a very small amount of stuff that I want to have in there and a big amount of stuff that I don't want to, then it would be impossible to do it this way. To make something like if letter equals to this, then I break or something like that, or send a message, error message. I think for this purpose, this exercise it works, but it's not the most efficient way. Maybe I can do if letter equals this, or I think I need to search for negative conditional statement. Not sure.
Hey there, how's it going, everybody? In this video, we'll be learning about conditional.
I'm gonna go to the bathroom real quick. Right back. Actually, now that I think about it, I don't want a negative conditional statement because it's gonna stop there if I do. At the first letter that's not plus or minus is gonna stop. Maybe I can say just continue. This works. What's here? Oh, something went wrong here. So continue doesn't work. I want to find a way to tell it to continue looping until it finds one that it isn't. No, that doesn't make any sense. Because some of the characters are not going to be plus or minus. I need to find the regex with all the conditions so I can test. But if I do it like that, I'm probably gonna have to use the library as well. Let me see if there's any hints or people talking about this. Yeah. This is just a test. Let me comment this out. Just say. Yeah, now it's not running the test, so it's better to see what's happening. Then try to import the library again. See what happens. So apparently it is working. It's running something, at least. None. So I can use the real library. It's probably just a problem of the way that is importing from one file to the next. Yeah, that should make things easier. So maybe I don't even need to do this loop here. I can just use a regex to test all the conditions. Start with the easy one first. Forgot how it is to find the boolean.
All right, what's going on, guys? Welcome to Regular Expressions Made Easy Part 10. So in this video, we'll be going over flags. So flags are actually an argument, flags argument, that we use in certain methods such as re.search, re.match, re.findAll. So we have this parameter, flags, which gives us certain options to add to our regular expression. So I've actually went over or gave examples of flags in the early videos, but I'm going to give some more concrete examples in this video. So let's just get started. The first thing we're going to do, of course, is import RE, regular expressions. Now the next thing is I have a string already lined up. It's a pretty lengthy string. It's part of a news article, but I actually made some changes to clarify my examples. All right, so we won't worry about the string at the moment. There's a couple of things, a couple of meta characters I want to go over. All right, so we have this a caret sign and a dollar sign. So I've never gone over these, but these are pretty important just to understand. So what the caret sign is it's something we can add to our regular expression that forces our pattern to look at the beginning of the string. So let me just go down. So re.search, so we have this pattern here, re.search, and now I've added a caret sign at the beginning of our pattern. So essentially, this caret sign, what this caret sign does is it forces our pattern to be at the beginning of a string. So if our pattern is not at the beginning of a string, we get no results. If you guys remember, re.search actually searches throughout the entire string. So by adding this caret, we actually confine the search to only the beginning of the string. So this is very similar to re.match, which only looks at the beginning of the string. So with re.match, I actually don't have to use the caret sign because it only looks at the beginning string. And we went over this in the previous videos. So in our case, since we begin with US stock index, with this, we're not going to get any results if I run these two. So if I run this, no result, and if I run this, we get no result. So that's the caret sign. Now I quickly want to go over the dollar sign as well. So the dollar sign matches at the end of the string. So at the end of the string, we have North Korea period, or depending how far back you go, you could go North Korea period, many metrics, comma, North Korea. So depending on how far you go back, our string ends with one of these words. So in our case, we're searching for a string that ends with North Korea period. So this will be the final portion of our string. So it ends with period. If you go backwards, period, then Korea, then North. So just looking above, as you can see, we actually have a match here. So if we run the code below, this will actually match or produce a match object or produce a result. The dollar sign usually comes at the end of the string because we don't want anything else after this portion of the string. So this portion of the string, or this pattern, should be the end of the string. So the dollar sign usually comes at the end of our pattern, and the caret sign comes at the beginning of our pattern. So now the reason why I went over this is because we're actually going to deal with some flags when it comes to the caret sign. So just remember, the caret sign means beginning, and the dollar sign means the end. All right, so I'm going to show you our first flag, which is re.multiline or re.m. So you can use whichever. However, re.multiline is probably more readable. In my examples that I provided for you guys, I'm using re.multiline. So we're using the same re expression as above, our string as our string, but now I've added this flags parameter, and in the flags parameter, I've added this re.multiline. So what does re.multiline do? Well, since this caret sign forces us to look at the beginning string for North Korea period, what this re.multiline does is actually gives us an additional feature. So instead of just being confined to the beginning of the string, we can also look for instances at the beginning of each line. So going up, this is the beginning of the string, but if we look at each new line, these are the beginnings of each new line. From that here, and we actually have an instance of North Korea period at the beginning of our line. Yeah, that's the only instance. So if we go back, so that's what re.multiline does. So I'm pretty sure re.multiline can only be used with the caret sign. It could also be used with the dollar sign, I'm not really sure, but it's usually always used with the caret sign, so this caret sign. So if we run this, we should get one instance, and as expected, we got one instance. Now with re.match, we can't actually use the multiline. The re.multiline only works with re.search, so it does not work with re.match, unfortunately. So if we run this, we'll get no result. So remember, re.search, you can use the multiline with the caret, and re.match, even if you use the caret, you get no match just by using the caret and re.multiline. Okay, so that's our first flag, multiline. We can use it with the caret sign. All right, so I'm going to go into the next flag, which is ignore case. So ignore case is just, it looks for both instances. It'll look for the North Korea with the capital letters, and then it'll look for a case without any capital letters. So ignore case is just looking for the capitalized version or the non-capitalized version. So in our case, we want to find all instances of North Korea, whether they be capitalized with N and K, or they're non-capitalized with the lowercase n and lowercase k. So if I run this, before I run it, let's just go back up and check out our string. So we have one instance, North Korea, another instance here, North Korea, and then we have two instances here. So we should have at least 4 instances. And as you can see, I purposely used lowercase letters for North Korea here. It's lowercase n and lowercase k, just to showcase the benefit of the flag parameter. Okay, so let's just get to our ignore case. And remember, you can use the flag parameter as either re ignore case or re.I. Okay, so let's just run this now. And 1, 2, 3, 4. So as expected, we got 4 instances. So North Korea, lowercase North Korea, and uppercase North Korea. So re.ignore case is just a flag that basically just ignores the case, whether it be capitalized or not capitalized. It doesn't matter. We'll find both. All right. So now we have one more flag I want to go over. Re.all. So I actually went over this in the earlier videos, but I guess I'll formally go over it in this video because I am doing a video on flags. So re.all is used with the dot meta character, and if you guys remember the dot meta character, it grabs everything or captures everything except for a new line. So for our string, it should pull out the first line because it's not going to pull out the new line. So US stock index futures pointed is what we should be pulling out. So let me just run this. And as expected, we got US stock index futures pointed. All right. So now if we want to actually pull out the new lines as well, if we want to include the new lines as well, we can use this flag re.all. If I run this, it should actually pull out the entire article or the entire paragraph, the entire string. So let's just run this. As you can see, the new lines are included. New line, value that new line. So yeah, so all the new lines are included. So that's what basically re.all does. All right. So those are the 3 kind of major flags that I want to go over. There's actually other flags that I personally don't really use. We have the re ASCII, re.
Hey guys, welcome to a new Python tutorial. Today I want to show you how we can work with regular expressions in Python. Regular expressions, or short RE or regex, is a powerful method that is used to search for matching text patterns. For example, typical patterns that can be extracted from large text files with regular expressions are emails or domain names. So at the end of this tutorial, you will be able to understand what this regular expression here does. And there's a lot to cover in this tutorial, don't be overwhelmed. I promise that once you have understood the concepts, it's not so hard anymore, and it can simplify and speed up your search tasks a lot. So if you watch the whole tutorial, then you will be able to understand any pattern that you want to look up. So now let me quickly show you what we will cover in this video. So of course we will see how we work with the RE module in Python. Then I will show you what methods we have to search for matches, what we can do with a match object. Then we will talk about meta characters and more special sequences that can be used in patterns. Then we talk about sets, quantifiers, conditions, and then grouping, then modifications, so how we can modify strings with REs. And at the end I show you some different compilation flags. So let's start. So as I already said, Python has a built-in module that is called RE, which we can use to work with regular expressions. So we have to import RE, and then we can start working with regular expressions. So let me show you a very simple example first. So let's say here I have some test strings already. So let me copy and paste this here. So this is our test strings. And now let's say, for example, we want to search for the pattern ABC. So we see we have this 3 times here. And now let's say we want to look for ABC. Then we create a pattern. So let's say pattern equals, and then we use the RE module and the compile method. And then here we say R and then the string ABC. So I will explain what R means in a second. And then we can use this pattern to find matches. So we say matches equals pattern dot find iter, and then we want to find the matches from the test string. And now this will be a object that we can iterate over. So we can say for match in matches, and then we simply print the match. So now let's run this, and then we see we have 2 matches. So this is a match object, and we can see more details. So for example, we can see the span. So this is the start and the end position. So this is 3, 4, and 5. And this is our match ABC, and a second match at position 12. So this is position or index 12 in our string. So we see that we have 2 matches here. And what we also see here, that our regular expression is case sensitive. So it doesn't include the uppercase ABC into our matches. So this is one thing that we must know. So one thing that I want to mention here is that instead of compiling our pattern explicitly, we can use the findIter method directly on the RE module. So we could also just write that our matches equals RE.findIter. And then we want to look for our, let's say, string RABC, and then from our test string. So you can use it directly on the RE module, and then we will, if we run this, we will see that we get the same results. So there's not much of a difference here, but I prefer to do it this way, to explicitly compile the pattern and bind it to this object here. So this improves readability and is also a little bit more flexible. So I prefer it this way, but you should know that you can use both ways. And now let's talk about why I'm using this R here briefly. So this means that this is a raw string. So for example, if I have a string A, and this includes some special characters like a tab, so a \t, that this is a tab, or a \n for new line, and then I have a string. So now if I print this, then you will see that we have the tab here at the beginning, so it didn't print the \t. And in a pattern, I usually want to look for the actual characters in my pattern, so then I can write an R here. And then this means that this is a raw string. So Python will print this the same way as it is specified here. And yeah, so I recommend to always use a raw string for your patterns. You can use just a normal string, but remember that you should use a raw string. And yeah, so this is a short example how a regular expression is used. So typically we come up with our pattern, then we compile it, and then we use the pattern to find our matches. And I will show you the different methods that we have on the matches now. So now let's go over the methods to search for matches. So we already have seen the findIter method, and this will give us a match object, and I will show you what we can do with a match object in a second. So now let's talk about the other methods. So there are 3 other methods. So we can use the .match method. So here, .match. Then we have search, and then we also have findAll. So now let's look about the findAll method first. So if we can say pattern.findAll, then we will simply get the string. So if you see here, I'm printing the whole match object. So now if I want just a string, then I can use findAll. And now if I run this, then it will just print the 2 strings that I'm looking for. So this is the findAll method. Now the match method determines if the expression matches at the beginning of the string. So this will only return 1 match. So here I can say match equals pattern and then match. And now if I print the match, so let's print the match and run this, then we will see this is none. because the match looks only for patterns at the beginning of our string. So ABC is not at the beginning. So now if I use 1, 2, 3 as a pattern, then we will see this is at the beginning. So this
we
will
can look this returns. I forgot to import. Doesn't understand Boolean statements. Or maybe this has to be a capital letter. Let's see. It's still gonna give me some error. No, it just returns. So let me print. Just see what this is. Why is this giving me none? It's supposed to be true. Let me do it like this. Oh, it's actually not supposed to be true. From what I understand, it's supposed to be an object. But
will return one match. And we also have the pattern here again, but again, the match does only return the first match if it is at the beginning of the string. And now we also have the search method. So the search method scans through the string and looks for any location where the RE matches. So if you use, for example, let's look for the match ABC again, then we will see this will return none because ABC has to be at the beginning. And now if we use the search method, then it will find the match object again, and it will simply return the first match. So we have search, match, find all, and find iter. And this is my preferred method, so from now on I will only use this one. And then we also have some functions that can be used to modify an object. So we also have split and sub. So I will come to them later. So now let's continue using the find iter method, and let's have a look at what we can do with the match object. So again, let's say our matches equals pattern and then find iter. And then let's iterate over this. So for match in matches, and then we want to print the match. Then again, we see we have the whole match object here, and we can use 4 different methods on this. So we can use the group method, we can use the start and the end method, and we can get the span. So let's start with the span. So this will give me the start and the stop index where this pattern is located. So let's print the match.span. So then we simply get this as a tuple here. So we get 3 and 6. So this is a tuple, and we can
I
also
think I'll stop here for today, and I'll probably go watch this stuff off stream. Then tomorrow I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna make it so I spend at the most 10 hours on each challenge, trying to do by myself. And if I can't do it for whatever reason, I'm gonna follow the videos of the guys that already done this, the ones that I saw on the on YouTube already. I'm not gonna watch their videos though until I spend at least 10 hours trying to solve it. I think I already have an idea of what needs to be done. It's just that I'm gonna have to understand how this regex library works, and is not so much a question of being a difficult problem to solve. It's more of a question of it might take a long time to figure out how to structure things. But I think the logic is pretty simple. The biggest challenge is the regex. So that's what I have so far. The idea I have so far is build the loops, check for each string for the patterns they want. Then if all of them pass, I'll probably have to split the all of the strings, and then there's a bunch of different ways that I probably can do that. One of them is to put all the strings together into one big string, and then use regex again to reformat the string the way that I want. The other one is to do each array with the string. I think that's the best one probably. Separate each element of the array into its own separate thing, and then format the string, and after that put it back on another array, each one, and then return that. I think that's the way to do it. But yeah, so probably tomorrow I'm gonna try this again. So yeah, see you.
also get the